Up next, we have a special session focused on the inside story of creating the Watch ABC product. Before we begin, I would like to roll the video.
You start the morning here. You take a break here. You end the day here. And in every one of your favorite places, you can find us. Download the Watch ABC app and sign in to see eyewitness news and your favorite shows live whenever you want and wherever you find yourself.
I'd like to welcome your esteemed panelists and the leader of this discussion. Please welcome Jeff Baumgardner, technology editor of Multi-Channel News, and his panelists.
Thanks, Louis. I'm pleased to have an opportunity to moderate this panel, which we're calling Creating Watch ABC, which of course is in reference to the app that was launched, was it May 2013? Make sure I got the date correct, okay. Offering both on-demand and in some markets access to the live ABC stream. And there's some authentication components too, which we're going to get to here in a little bit. But boiled down, it was, and probably still is to a degree, right? A little bit of a complex undertaking that not only had to abide to rules and policies, but put together kind of a complete system that not just worked, but also worked at scale and involved a number of key partners, and we have some of them represented here. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how Watch ABC was created, but before we move into that, let me just do some quick introductions here of the great panel that we have. So from my left, we have Albert Chang, Executive Vice President and Chief Product Officer of Digital Media for Disney ABC Television Group. And next to him, we have Ralph Jacob, the Chief Revenue Officer for Verizon Digital Media Services. And next to him, we have Melissa Roberts, the General Manager of Enterprise Solutions at Freewill. And next to her, we have Lisa Willett, the Vice President, Digital Ad Sales for ABC National Television Sales, Disney ABC Television Group. And on the end, we have J.R. Grant, Vice President, Product and Technology, Digital Media for Disney ABC Television Group. Okay, now as for the format, we're going to be doing this Q&A style, and we're going to have some time at the end, I think, to take some questions from the audience, so please be thinking about those, and we'll give you a chance. But before we kind of dig into the process of creating Watch ABC, I think it's good to maybe talk about what it is first and kind of give the audience their bearings on the current capabilities of the app, which markets have access to the live stream, and which MVPDs are currently providing authenticated support, and what that means, and maybe a little bit about what's on the docket. So maybe just the what is part of it. So I don't know, Albert, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, let me first start at a very high level, and then I'm going to throw it to JR, who can give all the really good, juicy details that we love so much about the product. Watch ABC for us is one of the biggest strategic initiatives for Disney ABC TV Group. It allows us to work with our pay TV partners to literally bring TV everywhere to our viewers. On demand, live linear, currently in the markets that we have owned stations. But we're trying to fully realize what the future of television will be, which is being able to have access to your favorite programming on any device, on any screen, at any time, and in different formats in which consumers view our content. And so for us, it's a big deal in the company. We hope that a lot of the things that a lot of these guys are going to talk about really help shape the way we looked at this as trying to solve an industry problem in terms of how do you tackle and provide consumers this type of technology and product, yet also solve some of the most challenging business sort of obstacles that we face. And that's kind of the high level. And then I'm just going to throw it to JR, who can provide all the cool stuff that it can actually do.
Oh yeah, I don't even know where to pick up on all the cool stuff, because there's lots of it in all these applications. I mean, I think the one thing that Albert said that is really key here is we were really trying to solve industry-wide problems, not just looking at it from an ABC or Disney perspective, if you will, but how do we really take TV everywhere and put it in everybody's hands and put that content across multiple devices, multiple access points and form factors of those devices. And those were really the challenges to solve not just the technical pieces, but really look at it to solve the technical pieces and do it at a scale that was going to work across our channels, and then hopefully lead the industry into solving it across the entire spectrum of the TV Everywhere ecosystem.
And for a broadcaster, I mean, why? I mean, one thing we want to talk about is like, why is Watch ABC important to broadcasters? I mean, is it just about making sure that, they can access it on every screen? I mean, what are kind of the overarching, reasons that a broadcaster should want to be part of this?
Well, so when you look at how technology is changing the expectations, what viewers want out of their media, technology is definitely driving more personalization, more mobility. I mean, the smartphone is probably going to be the smartest screen anyone will have, and there will be more of them than the TVs that you see in your living room. And when you think about what local broadcasters and their business, it's about establishing, local relationships with the community. Local TV broadcasters have very strong bonds with their communities and their viewers. And what best way to continue that and build on top of that is to allow, their viewers to have that relationship continue on outside of the home. And when you start looking at it, and when you start thinking about live, because for the first 8 years of us doing this, it was really about VOD, right? It was about network video on demand programming, but we hadn't focused too much on live only because of all these huge obstacles. When you start thinking about what you can do with it, you can watch your local news, while you're on a bus, on a train, while you're commuting. You can watch it, your local newscast when you're at your kids' soccer game. I mean, there's just ways where there haven't been opportunities for viewers to access our content that they now get to do it today.
And speaking as a consumer of it, I think we've grown to accept that television is flawless. And now when I go into the online world, I expect it to work exactly the same way. There's no time to wait for something to buffer. There's no wait for a spinning wheel that you guys all have experienced in the past. And so I think the expectations are high and the technical challenges were tremendous. And I think this app has really shown this is how you put what is working on television and put it into the online domain.
Okay. And one thing, Albert, I think it was at this event last year, you said that the ultimate goal with Watch ABC is to have it to every possible American have access to their local station. I mean, how much further along are you toward, kind of reaching that goal, and what's kind of your expectations for this year?
So we're always in continuous conversations with our affiliates. I think this panel is one of the many steps that we are taking. There is a lot of education on sort of how this effort is actually launched, and I think we're always in discussions with our affiliates. Actually, it's been really interesting and great in terms of how they're learning how this stuff works. But for us to be here, the goal is to try to kind of demystify a little bit what it took to get here, because it really isn't that hard, or at least I think everyone in this, all our respective companies did a lot of the heavy lifting in the last probably 5. We want to rip our hair out, just trying to figure out how to solve these problems. But I think what we want to do is to say this is something that the entire industry can actually do. The way we've thought through the solution set really should lower the cost to entry, and everyone should be thinking about getting to the space.
Right. Maybe you just walk us through a little bit about like what content's available to which markets, and there's like an authentication piece. So I'm in the Philadelphia area and I have Comcast. So I guess I have access to everything. I have the live stream, I have on demand. But what about like a consumer who's not in that situation? They're not with one of your authentication MVPD partners or in a market that supports the live stream. So I know there's kind of a mix of access and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that since we launched last year in May with basically 1 or 2 MVPD partners, we've really spent the last year is really growing that footprint as wide as we possibly can do, both from our partnerships with the cable operators and MVPDs. So grown that list from just a handful to now, over half a dozen, growing, almost every single month that we add one. And at the same time, we are available on the 8 owned stations, the 8 stations that we own now. But we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, as Albert said, educating our other affiliate groups and our other affiliate bodies to say, look, there's a great opportunity here to sort of ride the coattails of what we've been able to do, and really, as we sort of keep saying, is move the industry in this sort of progressively in this space. So every single day we're working on behind the scenes to get more affiliates up in all these different markets, so that eventually, we get to what we had talked about, Albert had talked about in September of last year. We want to get this in the hands of as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, so that, as Ralph said, on the consumer side, just happened with me over the weekend, I can watch the World Cup game on my iPhone on ABC at my kids' swim meet. So that's really powerful stuff. There's a lot of downtime in a swim meet. If you have kids that swim, there's a lot of, their events are short, but the days are long. So I got to watch some World Cup. That's a great consumer proposition and experience that we can offer. So really aggressively trying to roll that out.
So just to go back to, if you're in an ABC-owned station, which is LA, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, you will get access to the live feed. And if you authenticate, if you put your username and password, you get access to the latest broadcast episode for 7 days. The app will actually detect the DMA that you're in. So if you're not in our own stations, it won't tell you have a live feed available. If you don't have the live and/or the window, you will essentially get on demand without the need to authenticate, and that will be basically all the content we have after the 7-day window. Okay. So hopefully that is clear.
I'm taking notes in my head. So, but for example, all right, so if I'm, all right, let me ask this question now. As far as the authentication piece, why was it important to include that? Was it just to maintain kind of the pay TV ecosystem, to have that additional, component to be able to get access to the full, array of what you're offering?
Yeah, I think, look, when we started to look at the window, and how we looked at, why we were doing this. What we're doing really is essentially, we are partnering with the pay TV providers. These have been longstanding partners of ours. We work very closely with figuring out how to develop the ecosystem. We have an economic model where, as a part of that subscription that a consumer gets, there is a benefit to being a subscriber of Xfinity or Optimum. All of these cable operators that people sign up will provide that benefit, and that's what we do.
Okay, and maybe we can try to include everybody on this one, but as far as the overarching goals of the apps or the app, in terms of monetization and the delivery of high quality experience that can be brought at scale. So you guys are looking at the business drivers as well as just the technology pieces. So maybe you can kind of walk through a little bit of what the monetization goals here. Is it definitely to make money? Is it making money?
Sure. I'll take that one from Freewill's perspective, and then maybe Lisa can give some more color from the ad sales perspective. So Freewill is the ad management platform for ABC. We manage kind of from the pitch to pay process all of the orders that ABC is executing across all of their IP environments, and even leading into some of the QAM VOD environments. And so for us, Watch ABC has really been an extension of that TV experience with the addressability of digital. The ability for ad sales to package and put together campaigns that may look similar to what they do in linear television, but perhaps with more targeting, frequency capping, the capabilities that addressable brings to the IP world. And I think also it allows them to replicate many of the experiences that you do have in TV that you want to maintain in a more addressable environment, such as day parting and national and local splits.
Yeah, from a local station and national network perspective, we look at this as a completely new revenue stream. So it's a huge benefit to our stations around the country, the own stations, and we hope the affiliates very soon. We started out selling, rotational share of voice placements, and now that we have a scale, we now sell on a CPM and impression basis. And this has allowed us, both on the local station side and on the national network side, to really have the very first, we believe, seamless, unified, multi-platform ad sales strategy in the marketplace. The owned stations this month are launching our mobile and desktop online campaign rating product from Nielsen. Our network did this 2 years ago, and we're going to be the first local stations in the same space. We're also launching this month our partnership with MediaOcean, which is an agency buying service, where we're going to be the first local television stations in the country to be integrated as digital video stations into their buying services. So with all of these factors in play, we feel like we're very much a unified sale. To our advertisers, this has been extremely well received in the advertising community. They look at this as the future, and ABC is helping them pave the way. We feel that we are able to now give our advertisers the complete ABC audience, because the audience is so many places across all screens. We also feel that in our research, we've looked at ad effectiveness, and when we run an ad both on linear TV and on Watch ABC, we see the impact of the ads rise greatly. So we feel that we're really delivering the complete ad experience to kind of rise all tides in the industry as well on the sales side.
Yeah, and is there like a separate ad inventory for this as well? I guess let's make sure I understood that.
Yes, this is a completely different advertising stream. There's a couple reasons for that. One is with measurement, and then also there are still quite a bit of creative. There's quite a bit of creative out there that is not cleared for digital use, and so we feel like all of these factors put together has been one of the reasons why we're selling it separate.
So one of the things when you actually watch a live linear stream on Watch ABC, the commercials you see on that linear stream are actually different than the ones you would see in broadcast. So we actually switch out all the ads. That's why we create all this additional inventory, and that's how we monetize it from day one. And I don't know if you're going to get into how this gets, like how it magically happens, or.
I would like to know. Yeah.
So I think
I'd like
I'll let you totally. It's like pixie dust.
Yeah.
But I think Ralph could probably talk a little bit about. I think before I let the team get into detail here, the entire solution to Watch ABC is completely cloud-based. So the traditional way of thinking about launching this stuff, we're gonna as Vince Roberts, who's a great colleague of mine, would call it, you don't have to build hard iron, like whole new master control and all this stuff just to get this thing off the ground. Because of rights clearances, we actually do everything software-based, services-based, all in the cloud, which has massive implications on how we deliver this product. So I'm gonna stop there and.
Well, yeah, and maybe we can talk a little bit about the cloud and kind of how this is being put together. I think, well, Melissa, you talked a little bit about the role that Freewill is playing. Ralph, maybe we can talk a little bit about the whole how the solution's architected to kind of serve the broadcast ecosystem, and some of these additional, I want to say, complications, opportunities, right, on the advertising side, but we have you both here. So Ralph, I guess it wasn't Verizon at the time; it was Uplink. But maybe just walk us through kind of the role that you guys are playing in the app, to kind of help on that ecosystem side.
Well, we started the conversations with ABC almost 3.5 years ago, and the goal was always, how can we simplify the workflow that we're currently go through? I mean, Albert was already hinting at it. Vince Roberts always said, my God, I have to buy an encoder after encoder after encoder every other month, and it really is a costly endeavor. And we approached it from a side of, okay, if we're a service provider, how can we make the content owner's life really simple? And so we really looked at the workflow that needed simplification and some kind of cost reduction, so that Vince couldn't come to me and say, why am I buying this again? So what we started is a process where the uplink patent that is out there, and a lot of people are talking about this, is a process called the slicing, where we're taking a national feed, and it is fed into a piece of software that then does some local magic, observes the ad breaks that are actually in the scheduling system, and then pushes the content out into the cloud for further processing. Where the magic happens with regards to the dynamic ads and where they come in from, for the longest time, folks have done this on the client side, where it gets really, really complicated when you think in terms of the different file formats that need to be used for different types of devices. If your device roster is very large, it gets more and more complicated. The approach that, back then it was Uplink, now it's Verizon, taken was, why can't we use a single format that is industry-wide accepted and make that format available over all of these devices? That was part of the magic solution that we delivered to ABC, and they said, this makes a lot of sense to us. So how are we going to get the ads now into the system if we can't do it on the client side? And then we started to team up with Freewill, who had all of the business logic in place to recall the campaigns based on an end user's DMA where they reside. And we said, if we can tell you before that consumer actually sees the stream what area he's in. Can you give me back the campaign that I require? And I will splice that campaign into the playout scenario for that particular user session. And this is where it gets really interesting, because Albert and me could be sitting here right now watching the exact same stream, and depending on the heuristics and user demographics that I may have about Albert or myself, I get a completely different ad, even though we're watching the exact same show. The ads, though, are induced on the server side, not on the client side, and that's where Freewill comes in. So maybe you guys want to jump
But this
in.
happens way up in the origin of the stream. I mean, where it's kind of being inserted, or am I understanding?
This is after the signal is actually received. We have the information about where the ad breaks are. The consumer hasn't really seen it yet, but we know beforehand where the ad breaks are. You have to think in terms of a linear playout hour as, let's say, 44 minutes of content and 16 minutes of ads, right? We know where these ad breaks are sitting, but what we basically have created in the cloud are holes where the ads need to be filled. And this is where we're communicating behind the scenes with Freewill, pull the ads in, recreate the playout scenario, and then each individual that actually receives this piece of content now gets a different and customized viewing experience.
Okay. And I didn't mean to interrupt. I know he was passing the ball over to you before I jumped in, so.
But, I
Go ahead.
I was just saying, the cool part was that we didn't stop at even ads. The whole stream is fully dynamic, and any piece of ads or content can be dynamically substituted out and played back at the device where the consumer is trying to consume it. So, the amazing opportunity that we've created is this unique stream to all of us up here, all of you in the crowd, potentially to have you can multicast or simulcast or unicast to one person with any piece of content, any ads inside of it. It's truly 100% dynamic, which is really some of the magic that we've created out of the whole system.
In particular, I mean, you mentioned it already. You guys know blackout periods. I mean, the broadcasters, and Albert can probably speak to this and sing a song that he really doesn't like much, about what you can do online and what you can't. So if you get in a piece of content and it's somewhere flagged in the scheduling system as you don't have online rights, what do? You can't produce 1 hour long of blackness. You need to substitute the content. And so in the same way how we're replacing the dynamic ads, we can take dynamic content and insert it into a linear feed. For you folks, this looks like you're watching television, but you may be watching something that is coming from a feed and from a VOD asset that sits somewhere in their infrastructure.
So in those cases, I mean, what is this alternative content? I guess it depends, but.
Those are rules, I mean, that that are given to us by Disney. They say, we have a piece of asset sitting that we may have captured yesterday during a linear broadcast. Now substitute that for the next hour and then go back into a linear feed.
It definitely is it's a new sort of process that we go even internally. So every week or every 2 weeks, the programming folks, we all get together and say, okay, what's cleared, what's not cleared, so we know ahead of time. Depending on what time of day and whose programming it is, we offer a library of alternative programming. And so that, as soon as we get into this, it's part of our normal day, everyday routine.
What about?
And on the ad sales side as well, we're able to use this technology to pick either day parts, exclude shows. My favorite example that I've said before is that Scandal and Penn State. Penn State wanted to advertise with us, but they did not want to be in a show called Scandal, so we were able to exclude it seamlessly with no problem, and everything went very smooth. So on the ad side, we were able to do that as well.
And they were a living ad show. Yeah.
What I think's been really successful too, a lot of those business rules from the ad perspective are business rules that ABC's been using for the 3.5, 4 years that we've had a relationship in other environments, on desktop and pre-Watch. So these are business rules that the ad sales team is very used to complying by, and Watch is really just another inventory source for them. So in terms of selling and executing against those buys, these types of exclusions are normal for ad sales, and it's really, Watch is great because it's not limiting their ad sales capability. If anything, it's delivering more inventory from them in a pretty supply-constrained world for premium content.
Now, how are you dealing then with, like local news, right? Is it kind of that same alternative content model, where, the local, the stream that's going to, the local the Watch ABC app user in Philadelphia is going to be different than another market because you're going to want to get the local news. So do you just kind of splice in the, a different stream from the local news organization? I mean, how does that part of it work?
Local ads.
So as I think Albert alluded to, the app knows by geo lookups and DMA lookups where you are. You're in Philly or you're in New York. Then decides, okay, I need to go and get the stream from Uplink to Verizon to pull into that app based on where I am, based on the affiliate market you're in, and what time of day it is to pull in that local news, whether you're here in LA or back in Philadelphia.
But what you're watching is not a national feed. You're actually watching the KABC local feed. So we're not really inserting local. Actually, what's happening is we're taking the local feed, encoding that, and we're actually inserting the other program. We're inserting that programming. Yeah. So as we launch Watch with with all of our affiliates and with our own stations, the feed that we are talking about is the station's feed in their respective DMA.
All right, and just one more advertising-related question here. Now, you mentioned Nielsen, so are they, just to make sure I'm kind of clear, are they measuring the app right now on all the platforms, or what's kind of the status of that?
Yeah, I think broadly stated, we're working with Nielsen on a bunch of different initiatives that they publicly come out and said around mobile tracking and desktop tracking. So, it's a big challenge that we're working with them and others on around tracking these streams across all of the platform sets. So the short answer is yes, that we are tracking in various places, but the sort of deeper or longer answer is a lot more work to go and do. And sort of as we teed up some of this conversation is we're trying to get out there and talking with them and talking with other programmers is, look, this is going to be a challenge we're going to have to face down, so let's partner up and figure out how we're going to do this so that collectively are measuring this in a sort of unified way across the ecosystem.
And for right now, we're using the Nielsen online campaign ratings or the ComScore VCE product, but we still are working with them on the future and how we can build on that.
All right, great. And earlier you said that a lot of the heavy lifting has been done, and one of the ideas here is to kind of demystify the difficulty of getting a broadcaster involved and working with this. So what's kind of the onboarding process look like now? What do they need to do locally and to kind of work with you and integrate?
Do you want to take the slicer piece of that?
Sure, we can. So you heard me say earlier that the economics of using a cloud approach is really where I think the interest is on an affiliate level. If you think in terms of an affiliate having to go through what the mothership, ABC, the network has to do, think about all of the hardware that has to be bought, all of the encoders, everything that has to do with preparing the signals, then potentially all of these different file formats, etc. For the affiliate, the solution that VDMS now provides is a piece of software that runs on commodity-grade hardware. And it can take from a head end, wherever an HDSDI signal originates or a mezzanine file resides. This software is all that is really required. It combines upload, encode, and transcode into a single operation, so you don't have to worry about even getting it into the cloud with different software and paying for those services. It's literally just a piece of software that preps the content locally for further profiling in the cloud, that you get this adaptive bitrate nature, that you have levels of quality of experience that are according to the bandwidth that you have available, that you don't experience any of the stuttering and the spinning wheels that we've talked about earlier. So this slicer and the communication with a cloud-based encoding farm that now VDMS makes available, it's for the broadcasters, for ABC in this case, it's hands-off. It's the first time that they actually can start concentrating again on monetizing the content and not deal with the technical intrinsic details of getting a signal from point A to point B.
Yeah, we've had stations that we're sort of working with as part of the larger affiliate group that get the Verizon uplink software and are up and running within a day or even a couple hours, right? And then on the product and application side, on the Watch ABC, we'll work with both Freewill and Verizon and the station, do a couple little gymnastics or some magic around schedules and logos and stuff like that. But it's very, very turnkey at this point to light up another station. Some software, a little bit of some email exchanges back and forth, and you're ready to go.
And if you think in terms of the ads that Freewill actually provides for the playout scenario, a lot of times the campaigns, of course, are pre-selected. But there are, situations where the broadcaster has to deal with potentially third-party ads that don't reside in their inventory. So part of the tech solution that VDMS provides is a just-in-time encoding process that if Freewill dictates to us, I don't have this ad inventory here locally, go grab it from wherever it is right now and pull it into my inventory, that process is automated. So the affiliate or the network doesn't have to worry about it anymore, saying, oh my God, I don't have this ad, I can't fill that ad for my playout. It's behind the scenes. It happens automatically. You never have to worry about that again.
Right, and this is all the technical onboarding. I think the advice that we'd probably give to people on the business side when looking to launch an app such as ABC's is to really think through the sales strategy as well, though. I think understanding what your sales strategy is going to be. Does it replicate linear? Is it swapping out the ads? Is it a new revenue stream? What does the inventory look like? Can you actually deliver against your buyer's demand? Do you have the right measurement set up? Those are the type of business questions that we're working with our partners with. I think it's no secret that ABC is a very advanced ad sales organization who's kind of usually the first to market in terms of exploring new opportunities, but they're also very well organized from an ad sales perspective, so it makes it very easy to plot the strategy when you launch a new application such as Watch.
Okay. I have lots of questions. I don't want to hog them all, but I want to give people in the audience an opportunity to ask you guys some questions too. I have some others, but just raise your hand and we do have a question. We have a couple, so we have three. Okay, do we have a microphone anywhere? No? Okay. Well, here, we'll start with you in the middle and we'll repeat the question. Oh, hold on one second. We'll have Lewis bring it to you.
Hi. Fascinating discussion, and it's interesting to hear you talk about working around the rights limitations you have and to take advantage of the opportunities for targeting. But my question is kind of on a broad strategic sales level. What about the broad in broadcaster? So your unique ability beyond any cable network or any newcomer to sell the broadest possible audience, and at the end of the day, an eyeball is an eyeball, and if I'm a buyer and I want to reach every single person who's watching a big hit show, depending on my product, I shouldn't really care if they're watching on a 4-inch screen or a 60-inch screen. They saw my message. So where does 1 CPM for all eyeballs, regardless of, screen agnostic, where does that fit?
I mean, that's absolutely our strategy. That's our ABC Unified strategy that we have in place. And with our partners, we're able to kind of effectively do that with 1 CPM across all screens, across all buys, and we absolutely believe in that moving forward and plan to continue doing that for some time. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think and that's a really good point, and ABC is doing that, has been doing that. But we're in kind of this interim period as a marketplace where we're trying to merge the best of linear with the best of digital, right? And everybody wants scale, but everybody wants addressability, and they all want it all at once. And I think a lot of what we're saying here is that you have the ability to be addressable, but you also have the ability to do a one-to-many or a one-to-one relationship. And that's what I think Watch is a great example of the fact that it can be the broad and broadcaster, it can be a one-to-many and replicate a TV experience if ABC so wishes, or it can be a one-to-many and pick up the best that digital has to offer from a targeting perspective.
Okay, good question. We have another one? Okay, go ahead.
Hi, this is for Albert. Maybe forward-looking, do you foresee that this app could provide a premier content, including live, first on this app before it is on pay TV? And then second, building on that theme, do you foresee monetization opportunities beyond advertising where a person doesn't have pay TV, ABC, or Disney at home, but potentially gets access initially through this app for monetization purposes and/or enticement to bring them to a pay TV partner of yours like Verizon? Thank you.
So let me try to answer. There's two questions in that one. The first question, I would say, it's a good question. I don't have an answer for you, but I think when we start thinking about how we look at distribution and our program models, we're always looking at new ways to look at how we distribute our product. So, it's a possibility. I can't tell you whether it's going to be happening anytime soon, but it's something we're always looking at. And at the end of the day, the goal is how do we maximize the distribution and monetization and our reach of our consumer for our content, and whatever model that gives us that best outcome, we'll always look at that. The second thing about whether we use the app, look, we have things that are not behind the wall. That are, people can watch ABC shows on demand if at a later period in time, and so there are definitely ways for different people to get into ABC and into a pay TV environment. For those who may not, who may not be a subscriber, they will be watching one of their favorite shows. But we know for a fact that once you get into a show, there's a high degree of fandom that if they want that 7-day window, we have many opportunities for them to sign up with their MVPD to become a part of that.
And I think we saw some other hands up in the audience. Yeah. If you just give us a second.
Two questions. I'm wondering why millions and millions of cable TV subscribers won't be able to use your app because you don't have a partnership with Time Warner Cable and Comcast. And my second question is, will the technology evolve to a point where you'll actually have true live TV? Because I'm looking at it on my iPad and it's a 2-minute delay of the local news.
I'll cover the first question. The first question, we actually do have a deal with Comcast, so you can actually sign. Xfinity is Comcast, so the same thing. So Comcast is actually, they were the first deal that we did. Time Warner, there are some MVPDs that we don't have deals with. We're in continued conversations with them and always continually to talk with them about carrying these watch services, so that will happen over time. And the second one, into the 2-minute delay, anyone want to cover that one? Yeah. I mean, there is a delay, but it's a technical one. It's also it's a process that we're trying to work through at this point. Hopefully, we'll shrink it.
As Moore's law kicks in, there are challenges with which what we're trying to address with regards to true life, where it's literally just seconds behind. But there are also restrictions that are actually imposed on the broadcasters that say for emergency broadcast signals, or let's say something horrible happens during a live event on a sports event and there's a really bad injury. How do you block this if you don't have some kind of a buffer in between? And so decisions were made where we say, okay, we're just going to delay that, artificially delay it, and that ends up being maybe 30, 45 seconds. And then the technical challenge of actually getting it as close as possible to real life, let's assume that the rules and restrictions from the broadcasters themselves were lifted. I think over time we're going to get closer and closer and closer to real time.
Okay, good questions. And then we have, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll hopefully get in the last one. What have been the results thus far as it relates to local news consumption? I'm just very curious as to how this can ultimately be a lift for that news product, particularly given that we live in a world today where we don't have mom and dad racing home to watch the 6 o'clock news as they did when my parents were, when I was a young kid. So I'm just sort of curious because I do think there could be a real boon for local television news departments with this, and would like to hear what the early results are.
So I won't give you exact numbers, but I think here's what we're seeing in terms of the behavior of the live product, right? So when you look at usage curves on when it's highly used, the live product is definitely benefiting morning news programming, both local and our Good Morning America. We haven't figured out why that is. We haven't done actually extensive research as to why we have this massive spike in the morning and actually kind of decreases over time, because on demand takes over at prime time. But for live, it's definitely in the morning.
As a New Yorker who once lived in the suburbs, I can say that it may be people on Metro North. So
that's a theory. That's a theory.
That was actually
That
a use
actually
case.
scares me. So you're telling me there are people watching while they're driving right now. So this is great.
Many of us take the train.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and as far as like, I know you can't talk about specific usage, but I mean, can you determine like which platforms are or which ones are used more often than others? I mean, what's kind of the most popular way to get Watch ABC?
Obviously the mobile platform is doing very well. We're seeing a sort of an industry shift into some of these over-the-top devices, but I think as it comes to local news, the Metro North example is a great one, where you're commuting and this is filling that content need and that ability for you to access that content. So we're seeing tons of mobile usage, whether that's over iPhone or a tablet kind of device.
Yeah. Mobile has now surpassed PCs, for sure. And then what's interesting, as JR said, is that where there is a over-the-top solution, that's delivering quite a bit of volume too.
Okay. Now, how are you kind of handling the this is an over-the-top application, so you're kind of at the mercy of the connection speed, the capacity. So, I mean, is this like an adaptive streaming sort of platform, and like how many profiles did you guys develop to support this app? Maybe that's a little into the technical weeds, but just want to get a sense. Yeah.
We can talk about it.
We can, but we're not going to tell you exactly how we're doing all of this.
Okay.
I think we spent probably, I know JR now for almost 10 years. We started talking, about using an adaptive bitrate technology before there was an uplink, before there was Verizon, and there have been conversations on it. The team that is involved in actually having figured out what's the best approach, what are the best profile sets, they are credited with actually inventing the adaptive bitrate technology. And so they are very, very familiar with what works and what doesn't. There are so many different nuances when it comes to these types of technologies. There are no hard and fast rules. A lot depends on what type of content it is. If it's sports, there's a lot of interaction. If it's just a newscast and you see him bobbing head, you do something differently. The beauty of this process that we've developed jointly is that we actually do a pre-analysis, figuring out what is the best profile set for the content that we're getting at the point that it is giving to us in that slicing process that I was talking about earlier. And so you may end up with a completely different profile set based on a newscast versus something that happens on a green field somewhere.
Okay. This was a lot of fun. I learned a bunch. So we're going to conclude this panel. So before we hand it back off to Louis, please join me in thanking our panelists for their insight and information. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Jeff, and what a great panel discussion. Congratulations to the entire team on what has been a true success.